What's up, people? I'm Shaggy, the opinionated hippie, continuing and close to finishing after these many months, my studio and all things deep dive into Neil Young's entire catalog. Today we have official studio release number 43, came out in 2021, Barn. Recorded with Crazy Horse in a barn in Colorado, the same place they recorded Colorado. Pretty sure that's the same place. Yeah, it's a Crazy Horse album, but it is very much not a Crazy Horse album. It's a Neil Young with Crazy Horse album. And we do have a handful of songs which are like identifiable as what at this point I would say in Neil's career is a comforting Crazy Horse sound, electric, fuzzed out, distorted, grungy, that kind of thing. But we also get a softer side to this version of the band. We get some acoustic stuff that is absolutely amazing. We get a slow burner that's absolutely amazing. And even though I'm not going to rank this as like one of the all-time great Crazy Horse Neil Young albums, there is something very comforting about this. Came out, I think this was the first thing that Neil recorded after the pandemic. Or we were still in the midst of the pandemic, but all the sort of like restrictions have been lowered and people were free to get around. We understood it more. So it was I remember dropping this and I went back and looked at my texts from 2021. And I have a friend of mine who met him in college. We used to do Dead Tour together back in the college days. And growing up, like in our college years, I was the Zappa guy who was a huge Deadhead. He was the Neil Young guy who was a huge Deadhead. Like he's the guy who opened the door to many of the Neil Young deep dives that I went into. And I remember texting him when this coming out going, oh my goodness, this is exactly what I need right now. There are some absolute bangers on this album. And I think over time it's slipped a little as I have not needed that comfort anymore. But I still think it's a pretty strong outing. All things considered, this is what, 50 plus years into Neil Young's career. So I'm going to talk about the songs, rank the album. I will rank the songs at the end, put the list on the screen, and then I'm going to rank this among all the other 50 Neil Young albums that I've already done. Pretty much explained the whole setup. Nils Lofgren is in the band at this point. Frank had retired for health reasons. Nils is on guitar. He's playing the accordion. He's providing other textures. He does a lot. What he provides to sort of complement what Nils does is different than what Frank would provide. And so I do think that's why some of the longer songs or the one long song, most of the songs are like your average length. I think we have one song that clocks in around 8 minutes long. That just might be my favorite song on this album. But Nils is doing something a little bit different than Frank would. So I do think there's a little more of a less brute force in some of the sort of aggressive electric things and a little more subtle aggression, if that makes sense. There's 10 songs on here. I would say that there's 3 that really jump out at me. 4 mainly because the sequencing is really good. So roughly about half this album I think is pretty strong material that I think is even playlist worthy. And the other half I think is solid stuff and works really well within the context of the album. But there are a couple songs that almost dip into that sort of Bob Dylan, late career, early rock, almost like a 40s, 50s, sort of flirting with that kind of vibe. It isn't as egregious on this album as it is on those later Dylan albums. Maybe that is a sort of genre of music that they were obviously raised on that, or at least they were closer to that existing in real time than I was. By the time I was born, both of them had already put out amazing albums, both Neil and Bob. But it is something that they've sort of dipped into in their later years. So I'm wondering if like 20 so years from now or less, that's music I'm going to be more attracted to. If the stuff on here that has that softer vibe is going to resonate with me more. I won't know for a while. For now, it doesn't quite hit as hard. So what do we have here? Opens up with a song called Song of the Seasons. Acoustic, harmonica drenched, very Neil 70s vibe, kind of chill. A great opening to the album. I think if this song had maybe dropped somewhere else on the album, it wouldn't be quite as effective. It is pretty long. I think it's like over 6 minutes long. And so I think when you open with an acoustic song and then you drop into something heavy, the next song, Heading West, is Neil Young crunchy. It's what you expect from Crazy Horse. I think when you go from a soft acoustic into like something that's heavier, that opening acoustic needs to be really short, like a 1 minute Pigs on the Wing type thing. Or it kind of needs to be longer to truly set the tone. So then when we get to that crunch, it's a little more, oh, this is where we're going. And I think that's what Song of the Season sets up for this album is a, oh, this is where we're going type vibe. Like, okay, this version of Crazy Horse still exists. The song is about being out in the country. I think where this barn is located, where they record this, out in the middle of like the mountains in Colorado. It's living sort of an unpolished life and, you know, living out there. But then we get a reference to like going to the city and you see masked people everywhere. And then we get this reference to a queen and the king in their castle. And I think the king has passed away, but the queen is there alone. So we have 3 verses with like different imagery. But we start in the country where I think this was recorded. There is a loose quality to this. There is a country quality to this. Like, hey guys, I got this song. Let's all go out with our acoustic instruments and look out at the countryside while we record this. And I got verses about the city and other stuff, but just keep going. There is a very loose, also unpolished, kind of rough edges quality, which I think is very endearing to the song and works really well. Opening song, Song of the Seasons. Second song is called Heading West. We get that heavy guitar sound. We get that crunch. The solos are like nice and tweaked and he's like strangling the guitar. The song is about like remembering your youth and the things you used to do as a child. And apparently the song is about Neil's parents divorced. And when they divorced, he got up and he moved west with one of his, I think his mom, maybe his dad. It's about how, oh, it must be his mom because he talks about how his mom got him his first guitar. That's like a repeated refrain in this song. Nils is on the piano, adds a different sort of template to like a Crazy Horse crunchy song, but a really nice 3.5 minute just dose of like Crazy Horse Neil Young style rock. Next is Change Ain't Never Gonna. And the Change Ain't Never Gonna. This song's kind of about the environment. It's about Monsanto and food, though we don't get a specific Monsanto reference. It's about corporations. It's sort of almost every single Neil Young protest thread sort of woven together into one like complete tapestry, only we're not getting a lot of really specific mentions as much as we're just getting the overall vibe like, hey man, we still got to fight for change. There are still things we have to do. It's got a bluesy, almost Roadhouse type rock vibe. The repeated refrain of 10 men working, call back to an earlier Neil sort of bluesy band. So pretty good song, probably the weakest of the first 3, but it kind of plants those protest seeds that almost every single Neil Young album has been about for the past decade, and sadly, rightfully so. Next is Canarican or Canarica. I think it's Canarican. My writing is so bad. Canarican. Neil is an American. The first line is this is I am American. He was, pretty much moved to America, when he was relatively young, and he's lived there for decades at this point, but he's also Canadian. He's Canarican. Very rough-edged, slow, Crazy Horse type noisy rock. At one point, he starts screaming, I am all colors. We get this really nice screaming guitar energy, really nice, heavy, plodding riff. This is one of those where the drums are hitting hard. And when I mean plodding, I don't mean I'm like, as a listener, it's like dragging, but it's like the music is like, it's that Crazy Horse Tyrannosaurus Rex type stop thing. Not a lot of nimbleness in this riff or these drums, but a lot of power. Canarican. Shape of You is next. Very countrified rock, piano, harmonica. This is about love, about all the things that the shape of you helped shape my life. It's sort of a dedication to somebody else. This has a very bouncy Americana vibe, almost like The Band, but Neil being the band at the age of whatever he is at this point in his 70s. There's an Americana type vibe to this. Then we get one of the best songs on this album, just an absolute banger. It's acoustic. It's kind of moody. And there's a full band here, but there's acoustic like instrumentation. It's got this very worried, almost there's a storytelling vibe to it, but it has this oddly haunting feel. It starts off with this, like it's way past 4:20, get a specific 4:20 reference, but it's 4:20 in the morning, and this guy's waiting out, I think like on the porch of his farmhouse, and people are coming across the desert because they have goods to deliver, but they are really late. It feels like these are like, maybe the goods are drugs. Maybe the goods are like somebody's smuggling in like immigrants to like get them to the country to escape whatever horrors they live in where they're from. But there is this sense of unease, and the narrator's a little bit worried. And I think we don't get this line until the very, very end, when we've like laid out all the details of what's going on, when we go, but they're not here, they might be lost, which is the title of the album. Roll credits. Really moody, really cool. Kind of a different vibe than other Neil Young Crazy Horse songs, but really effective in its storytelling. And I think when you go over the course of the album, I'm used to thinking of albums always in the terms of vinyl. This is the 6th song, so it would have opened up side B after what is a pretty strong side A. Really strong opener, but also sets kind of a different mood for the second half of the album. Next is Human Race, super loud crunchy riff. This is like Crazy Horse, Neil Young rock. You get like where all of Crazy Horse is singing the chorus in the background, almost that weird call and response type thing. And Human Race is in the title because the repeated idea is, who's going to save the human race? We're still in trouble. We still need help. We still need people to step up and be leaders and like save us from ourselves. We get a really nice, loud, squealing, strangled act type guitar solo. This is like pure, uncut Neil Young, Crazy Horse. Next song is called Tumbling Through the Years. This is very bouncy, upbeat. This is kind of flirting with that Bob Dylan vibe that I talked about earlier. Piano, some drums, some bass, not a lot of electric guitar energy, if any at all, in this song. This is about sort of end of the road reflections, been tumbling through the years, thinking about the love we shared, reflecting on our past. A very, Neil does this a lot. Neil's been doing this since he was in his 20s, it seems, reflecting on the past. Now he's doing it, 50 years later. And then next, give away this list, we have what is, I think, the best song on this album. My favorite song on this album, the longest song on this album. It's called Welcome Back. It's got an electric guitar. It's got drums. It's the full band. But this is the slow, patient, lots of space, kind of like a Cortez vibe, only the guitar solo in that got pretty intense, and this one never really gets too loud or never really gets too crazy, but there is this like low-key smoldering intensity to the entire song that's just there. There's like little solos throughout it that are pretty intense, but like not loud, crazy, make the guitar scream intense, but just like there's a lot of angst in this, or a lot of just uncomfortableness, or a lot of just uneasiness. Like the patience in this and the lack of aggression feels like you should be wary of it in a way. Excellent vibe. It's sort of a poetic existential reflection on our place in the world, the natural world, how humans interact with it, just all that kind of stuff. Once again, it's kind of the same poetic protest thread that Neil has been talking about for quite a while, that he is stuck to. The environment matters, people. Us taking care of the environment matters, people. We need to understand our place in this world, people, or we're going to destroy it. And it never really delivers a huge payoff where you exorcise all of these like protest emotions, but it just lets you simmer in them and seep in them and like burn in them. And it's just, it works really well. And this is another one where I think the previous album, the opening song was like the epic song that was like really, really long on the previous Neil album that I did a couple albums ago. This is the penultimate song. And I think having it as the penultimate song allows you to go through all these little minor protest songs and these minor emotions. And we get love and we get memories and we get that. And then we get this. We're like, okay, you've stuck around me this long. Here's the message. That's Welcome Back. 9th song. And then the last song is this sort of soft, breezy, hopeful, Don't Forget Love. And all that you do, When you're protesting, don't forget about love. When you're fighting these corporations, don't forget about love. When you're trying to change the world, don't forget about love. When you're trying to remind people who are destroying the world, hey, don't destroy the world, don't forget love. Trying to offer some hope, push you in the right direction, make change for the better. Neil, just be a Neil. Soft, breezy, hopeful last song. In no way a bad album. I do think there are a couple songs on here that are maybe just kind of okay. Some of the softer stuff, the Tumbling Through the Years, the Shape of You, the Don't Forget Love, the ones that have those gentler, hopeful emotions, I think are the least interesting on them, both musically and maybe lyrically. But then there are also three that are just absolute bangers. I think Welcome Back, They Might Be Lost, Song of the Seasons are just absolute keepers. And Heading West, being that second song after the Song of the Seasons, slotted in the perfect place. But if I were to rank them, that's what the list actually looks like right there. You have those sort of atypical, moody, Crazy Horse songs in the top three. You have the very typical, loud, grungy, sort of in the middle four, right? Change Ain't Never Gonna Happen. That one's a little bit different, a little bit bluesier, but those are kind of the heavier, meatier ones. And then you have sort of the softer stuff at the bottom. So that is how I would rank the actual songs. If I were to rank the album, it is not on the bottom part of this list, nor is it in the top 20. After the Gold Rush, you are still safe in the top 10. It looks like you are going to maintain a top 10 position. I predicted back in the past when I first did this that you were going to be lower than most people agreed with, but you would still be in the top 10. I'm hoping I get to keep my word. I'm pretty sure I do, which means this album is ranked right at number 25. And there's a lot of stuff in this era that's right around this part because it's consistent. There's usually one or two absolute bangers on it, but it's not just from start to finish as absolutely solid as I think the other albums above it are. But I don't think this is a Neil list. So 25, almost smack dab in the middle, is a pretty good place to be because this man, this output has just been absolutely amazing. So yeah, that is all I got. Thanks for watching. Getting really sad as we're getting to the end of this, but like I said, I have somebody I'm super excited about to like deep dive into that I know his albums. I've known his albums for decades, but I've never actually sat down and listened to them in order to sort of watch that progression as I have now done for the first time with Neil. So I'm super excited about that, but that'll start in a couple weeks, like a month from now, I think. But anyways, yeah, comment, subscribe, like, share, do all those things. And if you haven't checked out this album, go check it out because I think Neil is delivering some consistent goods here in the 21st century. Peace. Talk to you later.